Hey guys, welcome to Lifepointe Youth Midweek Online. We are so glad you are here. Welcome back. We all hope that you had such a wonderful summer. We're going to go ahead and jump straight into the message from this week.
Well, I remember being a super young, middle schooler. I was 11, 12, 13 years old. And I got so mad at my parents one day that I just figured the best thing that I could do was to pack a bag and to leave because they weren't going to tell me what to do anymore. I packed my bags, I headed out the door. I knew I was never coming back. And by dark, I got scared because I knew that there were things out there that I couldn't face. I get scared really easily of the dark. I get scared of noises. It was really, really bad. And so I went back home. My parents obviously knew that I was gonna come back eventually because I kept my house key. Why is it that if I knew I was so gone and so I was gonna leave, why is it that I kept my house key? You know, as a matter of fact, I'm in Arizona right now, but I still have the house key to my parents' house in Kentucky. I don't know why I keep those things, but I think it's so interesting to know that when we feel like we're out of place or when we feel like we need to be away, man, God is still there waiting for us, just like my parents were. I wanna read a story, not actually even read it, but just kind of tell you guys and walk it through. It's in Luke chapter 15. It's what we call the parable of the lost son. Some other people might know it as the story of the prodigal son. You see, Jesus had been talking and sharing these stories about all of these lost things and the joy that people experience as they find them, right? Have you guys ever lost something? Drop it in the chat, man. If you have lost something that maybe you found and then it became your favorite toy or became something that you held with a lot of value because you lost it, I think that we've all been there at some point in our life. And so in this story of the parable of the prodigal son, this son looked at his dad and said, I want your inheritance right now. And I don't want to wait for you to pass away. I want what you were going to give me right now. And he takes it, he leaves, he squanders all of his money, he spends it all. He finds himself as a servant in some random person's house, and he is actually feeding the pigs. It gets even worse because he looks at the food that he's feeding these pigs as a part of his job, his duties, and he actually says, you know what? The food that these pigs are eating actually looks really, really good. And so he thought that man, this is the way to do this. And what's so interesting is that he gets to this spot, the lowest of lows, where he's really looking at pig food as if it's the best thing, the best meal he could have. And he says, you know what? Even the hired servants that are in my dad's house, man, they get treated way better than I'm getting treated right now. I'll go ask. I can't be a son anymore, but I'll go ask if I can be a servant. I think we have to understand that we cannot do things alone. We naturally want to do our own thing. We make our own decisions, but I want to tell you from experience that you can only do that for so long. Eventually, you're going to get to a pit that you can't get out of. You're going to be feeding pigs. You're going to be looking at pig food as if it's good, and you're not going to know how to get out. See, this son was willing to actually be a servant in a house that would have belonged to him later. I don't want you to get so impatient with God that you start to settle to be servants when you're called to be so much more. You're called to be a son. And I'm talking about servants as a identity, not as a thing that we're supposed to do. So don't hear me and be like, oh, well, Josh said I don't have to serve people. Josh said I don't have to go to church. Josh said I don't have to be a servant. I think of it like this, like toddlers, they want to do things their own way, even if it might hurt them in the end. Have you guys ever been to a hall of mirrors? Have you ever taken a toddler to a hall of mirrors? Well, my brother has a son, and he actually took him, and he was like, hey, you gotta stay with me. You gotta walk. You gotta make this thing really easy. And he didn't want to do that. I want you to just take a look at what happened to him.
Come here, bud.
It is crazy to think that sometimes we do the same thing. We want to get a running start. We want to get away from the people who are actually looking out for us. And what do we end up doing? We end up running into the mirror. We end up smacking our heads, and we end up running back to our parents. I want to continue this story. So he returns home to his father, thinking that his father is going to disown him, thinking that he's going to cast a lot of judgment. But actually, the father takes the first step and starts running to his son. I want you to know that you can always come home. I mean, could you imagine what was going through that son? Could you imagine what was going on in his mind when he's looking and taking that long walk home? It's not fun to own your mistakes, yet that's exactly what he was doing. Yet here, the father takes the first step. He had every right to wag a finger. He had every right to be mad at him for running away. Yet here he is running to his son. Whatever condition you come in, know that God is a father who will always celebrate you when you come home. Keep the house key because you have no idea what can happen when you come back. God has some amazing things planned for your life. And if you've ever taken a step away from him, all you have to do is turn back and he will come running to you. You see that on our own, we bring ourselves misery and we're without direction, but God takes joy in welcoming us back. That is such a cool thing. God takes delight in saving us from our sins and giving us a home. So take the first step. Come home. There's also another real quick thing that I want to talk to you. Maybe you've had a relationship with Jesus and you've had a relationship with the Lord for a while. See, there's this other son in the story very, very quickly, and he gets angry and he gets upset at the fact that this father is treating his son completely normal. He gets upset at this. I want you to know that if you already are in the family, if you are already in the family of God and you already call yourself a Christian, that you have two options when somebody else decides to keep their key and run home. You can either celebrate or you can criticize. You see, this guy was sitting outside of the party. He was outside of the house sulking because he was like, I've been faithful, I've been good to you, and I didn't receive a party. Yet this guy who goes and blows all of your money and does all of these terrible things, he comes back and you're gonna throw him a party. You can either sit on the outside upset at what God is doing in other people, or you can celebrate it. See, the brother thought that he was better than this prodigal son and more deserving of favor because of his faithfulness. While faithfulness is crucial, don't hear me wrong. It is so good. You do not get to elevate yourself over anybody else because of it. For my friends who are already in the house, maybe you've never left, praise God for what he did in your life. That's amazing, but you're not the bouncer in the house. You don't get to determine who does and doesn't come in. The father gets a chance to do that. And so I want you to know that you can always come home, that you always have a place. Maybe you've been far off, or maybe you've been faithful in the right spot, but your heart is still in the wrong place. I want you to know that you can always come in. You're always invited to the party that God is throwing in your life. You have the opportunity to have a key that's fashioned for you, that you can always return home. You have your name written in the Lamb's book of life. This is actually biblical. God has a book with your name on it when you choose to follow him. Whether you're in the pigsty, whether you're down in the dumps, or whether you're right outside the house, upset at who God has let in, we all have an invitation back home. We have the keys to the house. We just have to take that first step. Man, if you need prayer or you want to unpack this thing even more, maybe you have some questions, please DM us, drop them in the comments. We would love to get connected to be able to talk to you.
Man, we hope that you got something really great out of that message from this week. We are so excited for this semester. We have a few things we just want to connect with you on. Go ahead and follow us on social media. We're on Facebook and Instagram at LPAZ Youth, and on YouTube at Lifepointe Youth-Prescott Valley. Also, if you want any more information, you go to lifepointeaz.com/LPAZ Youth. Also, we're going to go ahead and throw an eConnect card up here. If you want to connect with us or you've never been able to connect with us in person, go ahead, scan the QR code. We'd be happy to connect with you and reach out to you. Also, if you don't have anything to do this week, on Friday night, we're doing an all-nighter from 9 p.m. to 6 a.m. We'd love to see you guys there. Hope you guys have a great rest of your week, and we'll see you next time.